Therefore, the issues concerning migration, environment, and climate change are not new to us in Uganda. Our people, the majority of whom are already vulnerable and have limited capacity to adapt to the impacts of climate change, have continued to experience increased frequency and intensity of floods, droughts, and landslides associated with the impacts of climate change. In 2010, we had to relocate and resettle about 3,000 people from Mount Elgon sub-region, Bududa district in eastern Uganda, Chiriandongo district in western Uganda, after their home villages were devastated by the landslides on March 1st, 2010. Last year, I emphasized at the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly that climate change is one of the greatest challenges of our time. As we are aware, Africa is disproportionately susceptible to climate change impacts. We continue to witness loss of lives and livelihoods from the damage caused by the climate change-related disasters. Your Excellencies, the scientists have been continuously warning us on the need for enhanced and collaborative action to combat climate change. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, an international scientific body on climate change in 2022, published its 6th assessment report. The report concluded that climate change has reduced food and water security, hindering efforts to meet sustainable development goals. In Africa, flood and drought-related acute food insecurity and malnutrition have increased due to climate change. Climate change is contributing to humanitarian crises. Climate-related hazards such as floods, as you heard His Excellency Salva Kiir telling you, South Sudan is a country which is flat in many areas, and you hear what he was telling you. Droughts, like what is going on now in some parts of the Horn of Africa, even parts of Uganda. Landslides impact the already vulnerable communities, increasingly driving displacement, insecurity, conflicts, and involuntary migration of people in all regions of the world. According to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, an annual average of 21.5 million people has been forcefully displaced by weather-related events, such as floods, storms, wildfires, and extreme temperatures. These extreme temperatures recently have been cooking the Europeans. The Europeans have also been cooked now this time. London, the temperature has got to 41 degrees centigrade. Different parts of the United States, Spain, all those places, people have been suffering with a lot of wildfires and so on. As we are all aware, East Africa, here in Uganda, we have never had 41 degrees. not even 35. Here in Kampala, we have never had those temperatures. Karamoja may be 35, but 41 degrees centigrade. You could see people fainting in Europe and the United States. So people who don't listen, they cause a lot of problems for everybody, including themselves. As we are all aware, East Africa and the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, and many African countries rely heavily on natural resources. The changing climate and weather conditions are putting our economies, our communities, agriculture, health, water supply, hydropower production, road infrastructure, and housing at more risk and making us more vulnerable. We cannot afford to take no action. In collaboration with our highly esteemed partners, such as the Nationally Determined Contribution Partnerships, most of our countries have updated their national climate action plans, also known as Nationally Determined Contributions, NDCs. As African countries, we reaffirm our commitment to the realization of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Africa Agenda 2063. Generally, for African countries, climate change adaptation is key in addressing the impacts of climate change at all levels, including addressing loss and damage and increasing the resilience of communities, infrastructure, and ecosystems. This is consistent with the African Union Climate Change and Resilient Development Strategy and Action Plan 2022 to 2032 that aims at building the resilience of African communities, ecosystems, and economies, and supporting regional adaptation. No country can address the challenge of climate change alone. We must work together to increase adaptive capacities while minimizing the negative impacts of climate-related displacements and involuntary migration. I appeal to you to take advantage of this opportunity to further discussions on climate change and human mobility, to inform the upcoming 27th United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change Conference of the Parties, COP27, that is scheduled to take place in Egypt later this year. The commitment we have made today is our first landmark, strengthening our cooperation in relation to climate change-induced human mobility, including migration, displacement, and planned relocation. The outcome of this conference is to bring the issue of migration, environment, and climate change to the mainstream national and international forums, especially in the climate change negotiations during the 27th United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change Conference of the Parties, COP27. Here in Uganda, we can give testimony to the dangers of mismanaging the environment. There is the global mismanagement of the environment by those who are emitting greenhouse gases, such as carbon dioxide, which is a very good gas, because carbon dioxide is a good gas if it is used properly. You remember, carbon dioxide is captured by plants, and the plants use it to manufacture food for us. So the issue is not just carbon dioxide, it is the misuse, the greed. Greed is the biggest problem. Greed of people who are looking for money in a quick way. Otherwise, carbon dioxide is used by plants, as you know, through photosynthesis to manufacture food. All life has got carbon in it. But those people who are greedy for money have caused this problem of increasing those greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. So these are the ones we are telling you must stop. And we should insist on that, so that the globe does not become warmer than it should be. And that means also planting trees, more trees, because trees can capture back that carbon dioxide and imprison it. All those trees contain carbon dioxide, and they are constantly capturing it from the atmosphere to make actually good things for us. But then, even ourselves, we should also, here in Uganda, I don't know about the other countries, even ourselves are contributing. For instance, destroying the wetlands is our responsibility. It is not the Europeans who are destroying the wetlands, it is us. The Chinese, when we got in touch with them, introduced a culture which our people here didn't know, the culture of growing rice in swamps. I don't know what swamps they use in Asia. But here, what they call swamps are actually tributaries of the River Nile. So when you grow rice in the swamp, you are committing a very big crime. And this is us, it's not the Europeans. This must stop. Now, I don't know how the scientists briefed you, but here in Uganda, 60% of the rainfall is from the oceans, from the Pacific Ocean, from the Indian Ocean, and sometimes from the Atlantic also. But 40% of the rain is from our wetlands here. And the ones in South Sudan, and the forest in Congo. Therefore, by interfering with the forest, interfering with the wetlands, we ourselves are destroying 40% of the rainfall of this area. So the countries of the Great Lakes, you really need all to watch. In Uganda here, I'm having war to make sure that nobody cultivates in the wetland. You cannot be cleverer than God. God is the one who said this is a wetland, this is the lake. You can imagine people go to cultivate in Lake Victoria as if they are mad. This is water. God is the one who said, this is water, this is in the book of Genesis. You go and read the book of Genesis, even if you are not Christians. From the beginning, God said, he created the world, and then he said, let water separate from the land. And some parts were water, some parts were land. Now somebody comes and says, God was wrong. What he made water, I will make a garden of rice and mayuni and all of that takataka. This is terrible. So, and these scientists, I don't know whether they have briefed you, the Ugandan scientists, they were able to show me that 40% of the rain Uganda get, some parts of Uganda get, is from local water bodies. And they showed me that here where we are, near the Entebbe airport, is where the equator passes. Where you landed at the airport, that's where the equator passes. So you going north. By the time you get to places like West Nile, you are at degree 3 north of the equator. Now, the northeastern part of Uganda, Karamoja, is also north, 3 degrees, 4 degrees north of the equator. But they get 35 inches of rain when the rain is good in Karamoja. In the northwest, Acholi, some parts of Acholi and West Nile, they get almost 2 times. They get 60 inches of rain. Why? Because of the swamps in South Sudan and the forest in Congo. They are the same latitude, Karamoja and West Nile, but the other one gets almost 2 times the rain of the other one because of the local water of the nearby water bodies and forests. So if this science is known to people, how can we kill ourselves, commit suicide by attacking the wetlands? A very good protection of the forests, so that the river banks are protected with vegetation, so that the runoff water doesn't sweep soil into the river and all that, like in the lake here, cutting the vegetation near the lake shore. Very, very irresponsible. So, while we in Uganda are quarreling with the Europeans for the greenhouse gases, but we must solve our own problem, which we can solve ourselves, which is interfering with the rain cycle of our wetlands and water bodies, which contribute to our rain, our own rain, not the rain of anybody else. As I conclude, I would like to thank you once again for putting aside your valuable time and for the commitment that has contributed to a successful outcome of this conference. That declaration is very good. I wish you all a pleasant stay in Uganda. Did they say I was closing or opening? Oh, but I'm saying you should stay here. Although we have closed, you stay around and enjoy yourselves. I thank you all, and I wish you good luck. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, there is just one request. After the anthems, we'll have some photos taken, and I will guide when that happens. I would like now to take the pleasure of requesting that we all be upstanding for the anthems.